Hey guys, you're watching the Money.Finance podcast, myself and DJ Sbu, and we are actually talking about how to think short term. The previous episode, we talked about how to think long term. And this one, we talk about how to think short term. So we have to say this at the beginning. We are not financial advisors or financial experts in any way or form. We're just students of the game, learning the money game, and we're trying to discuss these conversations with you so that we can figure it all out together as we go. So, but also we might say things that might offend some people in some ways. I don't always say the right thing sometimes, and anyone can slip up. So please, if you have something that you have a problem with, always let us know through social media, or you can write us an email. Okay, big homie DJ Sbu, you could take it on.
Quite excited, man. Thank you very much. Reconnecting together and we're learning so many things. And thank you guys for being a part of this community. The podcast has been growing. We're getting a lot of feedback. We actually just hit our first 1,000 followers on some of our social media platforms, our first 1,000 subscribers on our, it's just a beautiful thing. It just means there's 1,000 of you guys that believe there is some sort of a right thing that we're doing out here. So I'm quite excited for this episode as well, Mr. G. I'll call you G, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I take it. For me, I always say that people can call me whatever they want, whatever makes them feel good or easy. If I'm in Africa, mostly people find it very easy to say Jabesi because it's an African name. When I'm in Europe, in other parts of the world, people like to call me Gray because it's what it is. But the streets also call me Gray mostly because they think it's cool. But today, we talk about how to think short term. So we talked about the long term stuff. It's usually boring to think long term because, it requires a lot of sacrifice. But how do you think in the short term, Sbu? Because I understand the game is to get rich over time, become wealthy. But in the short term, we also got to pay the bills. We got to take care of the kids and all these other things. We also got to have fun and have the things that we like to do, like we still want to drive the Lambo right now. I want to drive a Range Rover or something like that. So how do I factor in my short-term thinking in the now while still maintaining the long-term thinking?
I've always structured my life in this way. So I've got short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. Long-term goals is what I'd like to become in the future. The type of family I'd like to build, the type of legacy I'd like to leave, the type of company or the type of company I'd like my company to become. This is in the future. So a lot of the time in my conversations, when I say future, one day this, one day that, you must know that I'm talking about my long-term goals. Mid-term goals are those goals that are taking me to my long-term goals. Mid-term goals could be the day one gets married, or the day my company gets a venture capital funder, or we get some investors maybe, or maybe we are scaling up our company, we're probably doing well. You know what I mean? Like those are sort of our midterm goals. Midterm goals could be anything between 5 to 10 years. Well, for me. And then long-term goals, as I did say earlier, would be things of like 15, 20 years, or even when I'm no longer here, how I would like to leave whatever I've built here. You know what I mean? Like a legacy, you can put it. But short-term goals, I love this topic. Short-term goals are those goals that force you to think of the now and act now. Because when you're acting now, I always say to people, a goal is a dream with a deadline. So if you're saying a short-term goal, it means you're talking something as soon as next week, something as soon as at the end of the month, something as soon as today, something as soon as tomorrow, midday. Those are short-term goals, or something as soon as next week, Friday. But how do you make those happen? Because those determine what the midterm goals become, and those determine what the long-term goals become. Ultimately, the short-term goals are the most important ones because they are the ones that eventually make you to be able to achieve your long-term goals.
Right on. So for me, my short-term goal, the way I structure it, I don't really have so many midterm goals. I think mostly long-term and short-term. The long-term is the most important thing. It's like the guiding principle, the light that I'm always thinking is that my life in the future, a completion of a certain project. And then the short-term goals to me, now the short-term thinking is to win the small battles that are getting me towards to my long-term goal. So what does that look like? Well, I have to wake up at a certain time in the morning. If I fail to do that, and if I end up waking up at 10 or 9, when the goal was to wake up at 6, okay, that is jeopardizing the short-term goal. So in the short-term goal, for me, I'm trying to win the immediate game of life of today, right now. This is my to-do list. Did I win? How many of them did I smash? I need to get at least 90% of them done if I plan them a night before. That's when I would consider that my short-term goal. Those are my short-term goals. And there's a connection between some success and happiness that comes between the long and the short-term goal. If I am winning in my short-term goals, I also make more money. I'm more happier because I feel like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I'm failing at the short-term goals, it just makes me a grumpy person because I might be on a call with a friend or having dinner with a friend or having lunch. My mind is not there because I'm thinking about how many of these failures or what I didn't manage to complete. So for me, the short-term goals is winning the immediate, everyday, normal stuff of the day.
That is so beautiful. So some of the points that I can bring out to you guys out there who are followers, these are the points that you can, I've made some sort of notes that you can take. And this is your homework that I'm giving you. What are short-term goals? And you need to answer that yourself as our followers. Number 2, why short-term goals are important? And this is the homework we're supposed to be giving you at the end of this podcast, but write that down. Short-term personal goals, number 4. Sorry, that's number 3. Number 4, I wrote here short-term career goals. Number 5, I wrote short-term financial goals. Number 6, I wrote short-term study goals. Number 7, I wrote short-term business goals. Number 8, I wrote short-term health and fitness goals. Number 9, I wrote best goals. I wrote short-term spiritual goals. A lot of people are not even spiritual. It's totally up to you, whatever you believe in, but I'm sure you've got some sort of a center that sort of guides you. You believe in something. It doesn't matter whatever religion you're in, it doesn't matter, right? As much as we are a financial podcast, but we'd like to encourage you guys to balance your lifestyles, because for you to perform better financially, you have to be on your A game. Gray just spoke right now about if he doesn't wake up early in the morning, it messes up his day. I'm the same. I have to wake up in the morning and hit the gym. That's the first thing I got to do. When I've hit the gym in the morning, my adrenaline is running. I'm listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts, or I'm listening to affirmations on my ear, on my headphones, or I'm listening to my favorite songs and music, and I'm jogging and I'm working out. That literally changes the rest of my day. Now remember, the fact that I've already changed the rest of that day, it already changes the rest of my week, which changes the rest of my month, etc., etc. So it is very important, guys, to not take for granted things you're doing immediately at each and every time. Just like this podcast. It might be a podcast that myself and Gray are working on right now. We're working on putting it out next week. And then our next plan is to put out the next episode the week after. But these episodes are going to exist for hundreds of years to come. They are recorded on video. So we can't just say anything and blabber on just out of our mouths. So everything and anything that we put together, it has to be something that is life-changing, right? That is impactful, that can change somebody's life out there, or make somebody else think out there. But also, let us also mention that we're also not perfect. We are also just on this school of life. There's a lot of things that we might say that might piss off or irritate people out there. We are students of the games ourselves, but short-term goals are important in that way. So rewind this video and take those notes and go answer those questions as far as your short-term goals are concerned. It's not only the finance side of things.
Exactly. And I mean, I could add a few points or tactics that people can use. So with the short-term goals, I like to put it purely in numbers. How many push-ups am I going to be doing every day? 100 push-ups a day? Okay, it doesn't matter how many of them I do at a time. It can be 10 at a time, but in 24 hours, I need to do 24 of them. What is your daily income target? How much money are you looking at making every month? Because sometimes every day, sometimes we can have, it's easy to think of, I want to make $1,000 per month extra besides my normal income. right? But then if you break it down and say, okay, let's say it comes down to say you have to be making $50 a day to reach your goals or whatever, then it becomes a lot more challenging. So sometimes the short-term goals help us to keep us in the focus framework where you really know what your parameters and your limits are. It's because you can bullshit yourself and say, oh, I will make 20,000 Rand this month. This is my goal. I'll make it somehow, because you think of this big number. But if you give yourself a daily target, it's right in your face. And when you fail at that of hitting your target in one day, then it's easy to check yourself. So let's have those numbers. Say, how much money are you trying to make a day? If you haven't practiced this thing, I started with trying to make 100 Rand a day, right? I used to think it's impossible until I achieved that goal, and then I just started increasing the numbers. So many people out there that maybe don't do this. It's a very good money trick that you could use in your books, and also work out, putting numbers to how many push-ups, how many squats, whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to get good at, you have to put numbers and keep it consistent. Or at least one of my short-term goals is to only take cold showers. It doesn't matter what the temperature is, So to each his own. But I think we all can have some of these short-term things that it's easier to check whether you're doing the right things, going toward the right direction, or you're falling off.
I totally agree, Gray. And one of the things that a lot of people, let me say, the biggest holdback of a lot of people that are even in millions and millions of graves all over the world right now is the word procrastination. What I love about short-term goals, they help people kill procrastination. We all procrastinate a lot. No, I'll wash those dishes later. No, I'll start on that assignment later. No, I'll work on that proposal. No, I'll listen to that amazing podcast that I know is going to change my life later. No, I'll read that book. No, I will register. That is procrastination. But if you've got short-term goals, and that's why I did say to you guys earlier, a goal is a dream with a deadline. So if you put a deadline on it and said, I need to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you write them down. That's the first thing I'd like to say as well, is write things down, write those daily goals in Jalo. If your week is starting and it's a Sunday, you got to know what you're going to be doing for the rest of the week with your time. You can't just be available for everybody with your time. Anybody can just call you. Anybody just finds you. You're always available. You just do things that are unproductive into your life. Like, no, your time has to be planned out. For you to become I don't want to call it the top 1%, but for you to become the best you can be, things have to be written down, not necessarily with a pen and a pad, but with your phone. You got to have a diary. You got to know what I'm doing tomorrow at this time, at that time, what I'm doing the following day and that day, etc. That helps you kill procrastination, because if you don't do that, you don't feel guilty if you don't do it. But you feel guilty if you don't do it, because you've written it down and you can see the fact that you didn't do it. There's a reminder that I've written it down, and
I know.
You know what I mean? So writing it down helps you kill procrastination. That's what I love about short-term goals. And short-term goals, guys, keep you focused. You gotta keep the focus. It's very easy to get all of us off focus. We love sports. We love going out and parties. We love being with friends. We love drinking. We love all these different things, and those things can be a deterrent sometimes. We're not saying don't have the fun, but those things can be a deterrent. But what I love about short-term goals, they do help you keep the focus, because achieving a long-term target or long-term goal, like I did say earlier, pretty much relies on the immediate short-term goals you keep achieving on a daily basis.
Right on. That's a very good way to end it. So that's it, guys. Thank you again for watching or listening to the Money.Finance. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Remember, like, subscribe, and share with friends and family who you think need to hear this kind of information as well. Take care, guys. See you next time.